My name's Cody Smith.
I'm Tierra.
Hi there, I'm Tim Ocampo.
And the three of us are the hosts of the Last Podbender.
Welcome to the Last Podbender. We are on episode 9, the Waterbending Scroll. In this episode, Aang and Sokka and Katara go into a village because Aang was learning waterbending and he washed all the supplies down the river. So they go into this village, they visit a pirate ship, they find a waterbending scroll. Katara uncharacteristically steals it, and the pirates pursue them with Zuko in tow, and some chaos ensues. And then, family and friendship win the day. It's basically what happened.
Yeah.
That was such a wholesome explanation.
Crime's okay, kids, if you're stealing from pirates.
Yeah, that's the message they're getting across here.
Basically, the moral of this episode is as long as you're stealing from the people who steal, it's fine.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess my first thoughts on kind of watching this episode is we see Katara struggle with her ego a little bit, and it's very uncharacteristic of her. It doesn't really happen too much throughout the series, but this time she really has because Aang is just such a natural waterbender because he's the avatar, and her seeing that in Aang, it really kind of, I think it gets to her, right?
I've had this exact feeling. I used to do a lot of dance, and I would teach people how to dance, and there was definitely a couple of times where I'd teach people a move that I had struggled with for a long time, and they just got it right away, and I'm just irrationally angry. So I understand how she feels.
Mm-hmm. What I found so interesting, because it's we don't normally, I agree, we don't normally see Katara interact at this level of, I guess, jealousy. We got some pettiness up in there.
Yeah.
She doesn't, it's uncharacteristic. Well, maybe not uncharacteristic for her to snap, but it takes a lot for her normally to really snap, as we see throughout the series. But I think what particularly triggers this in her is she's so used to being, I guess, a figurehead in the relationships that she's building with Aang, of being this kind of this bigger, older sister, motherly figure, and then all of a sudden, I guess it changes that power dynamic, really. So I think it was her struggling to adjust to that recontextualization. It's I'm not really the, quotation marks, bigger person in this specific area, and I think she was just questioning, oh man, if I'm not this, who am I?
I think building off of that, she's had this identity, she's been the only waterbender in the water tribe. Yeah. So she's been the only waterbender forever. Yeah. So for Aang to pick it up so quickly, I think that kind of bruised who she thought she was.
Wow, yeah.
Definitely. And you can imagine, if you spent weeks, months, even years maybe trying to perfect these moves, and then somebody comes and
3 seconds later.
And in 5 minutes, they've learned everything that you've learned over the years and years that you've been practicing. That would probably irk you a little bit. It's her emotions and her reactions are completely valid in that situation, for sure.
It's just that we don't see that a lot from her. She's normally not the person that reacts strongly with jealousy, with ego, with anything like that. That's not normally how she reacts to things. So it's good to see that kind of side of her. I think it kind of humanizes her as well.
I agree.
Definitely. Honestly, I think that her ego and her jealousy and stuff actually lead her to the actions of basically the whole kind of plot point of this story, and her stealing the waterbending scroll,
which,
right?
honestly, I feel is extremely out of character for Katara. I feel like it's out of character. Like so far, Katara, right? Like so far, Katara, we've seen like extreme morality from her. At every bend, extreme morality.
Yeah.
So for her to kind of be hurt or like feel so at unease within herself that she steals something is like a very big tell about how she's feeling.
Yeah. I agree. And I think what's something I found interesting, like while she was exploring, while she was like acting on her, I guess her, I'm trying not to say negative feelings, but while she was acting upon like her her jealousy, her like unchecked jealousy and pettiness and competitiveness, as she put it, she didn't realize the effect of what her actions had on her friends until she like stopped and like saw the look on Aang's face when she snapped at him. What was some of the things she was saying? She was like, "Oh, maybe you're like such a good waterbender already. You don't need me," or something like that. Or no, I don't know what the exact phrasing was, but there's a moment where she snapped, and then all you see is just like the quivering lip of Aang, the quivering lip of Aang, in utter sadness. Because I think even while she didn't feel like she was a stronger bender when she was teaching Aang, I still believe that Aang had nothing but respect and admiration for who Katara was as a person, like even outside of the bending abilities.
Like even when she's teaching him, he's like, "Oh, like I only learned this because you're such a great teacher," right?
Yeah,
and he's trying not to be that person that like oversteps, right? He's trying so hard to be respectful.
I don't even think that he knows like really what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's just like, she is teaching me and I am learning. Cool. You know, I don't think that he's like even aware that like, oh yeah, like I shouldn't be able to pick it up this fast, or like I shouldn't be able to like overshadow this person or whatever, right? It's I don't think that he really is aware. And like, yes, he tries to kind of soften the blow a little bit, and you do see that like by him saying that, it does kind of like give her little like she's like, okay, sweet. But then like I think the last straw for her is when they do get the waterbending scroll and Aang just like instantly learns the water whip or whatever, and then Katara is like struggling with it, and then that's when she snaps, right? And it's the first time really that we've seen Katara like disagree with Aang and the Kyoshi warriors. You're right, but like really get mad at Aang, I think, though.
Where like I think where she like feeling all of the emotions so strongly that she just snaps.
Yeah, and actually, I do take that back. I forgot about the Warriors of Kyoshi episode.
I was like, why? I was like,
I will.
She got real mad there. I was like,
you're right.
I think Aang was in the wrong for Kyoshi. That's really fun. I think Aang was like in the wrong during Kyoshi Warriors, and now it's kind of like, it's her turn, and it's okay to be a human being and make mistakes, and to struggle with, I guess. Because I think value how much you value yourself is based on how you see yourself. And I think Katara's struggle in this episode is that she saw herself as less valuable because she wasn't able to give to a person who asked for her help as much as they really needed her, and also realizing that it's okay that it doesn't need to be like, I don't need to be superior in relation to this person that I care about. And what really, I don't know, sends it home near the end of the episode, it's it was something that Aang said, like, maybe what we need right now isn't all like the strength of like all these like rhinos to move the ship, but just two waterbenders.
Oh my God.
And I think it was his recognition, like, I see you as like, I don't see you as any less than I am. I see us as two peers in this relationship, and that's what really sparked the teamwork and like their movement towards success. They were two people who were helping each other get better.
And like the water. So sorry, I just love this so much. So like the water tribe, as the name implies, is very community based. Like even when they fight, they work together to create bigger effects by combining their bending. And you see this again and again and again. So for Aang to work together with Katara really just kind of embodies that like water tribe spirit. And like he's never worked together with anybody. Like even when we see that flashback to him and Gyatso, like they're having fun together, but they aren't combining their airbending.
Interesting, yeah.
They're
it's like
using it separately.
Balls.
So, like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool.
That's beautiful.
I do. Just kind of building off what you both said, though, but we all kind of like everybody kind of has this inner image of who they are, right? Like they fulfill a role, be it in a friend group, in a company, or whatever it may be. We all have this idea of who we are, and it's usually a role that we fulfill.
Yeah.
And Aang, I feel like, was impeding on that image that Katara had of herself, right? The waterbender, right? I am the waterbender of this group, and like if I'm not that, then what am I? So she could have even been struggling with some sort of like identity crisis at that moment, right? You know, it's like, and also it is really cool that when they do work together to push that ship off, it's the very first move that they learn together, right? It's just the in and out of making the little tiny wave, right? So it's like something so simple, and it brings the whole episode full circle.
Yes.
Where they just like now they use the very first most basic waterbending move that they learned together to basically save the day, right?
Yeah. That's beautiful, honestly.
Hello, everybody. No, I'm just joking. We had some technical difficulties. Wow. So we're splicing these two together, and we've been talking for like half an hour about this sweet episode, and most of it got lost.
It was basically an Iroh hour.
Yeah. So
you're being too humble. We had to fight off like 5 like rogue firebenders, and man, I'm just so glad we made it out of there alive, guys.
Yeah. Your computer got like roasted. I'm surprised it still works. Like that's probably why it turned off.
Yeah, it was that water bending that was employed by Tierra that actually put out the fire. And
I had to put out the fire on the laptop. I was so happy I didn't fry it.
Yeah. It was really crazy, guys.
It was insane. Like the whole block is blacked out right now, and we're using our local firebender to just lightning bend some electricity for us right now. So
we had to like lightning bend the generator to power up so we can podcast.
Yeah,
guys, you know what really brings me, like, we had such a rough day, but you know what really brings me just some peace? Talking about episode 9
for the second time. Episode 9 just really gets me fired up.
That heals my soul.
So I think the audio that we did get, we talked about Katara and kind of her ego kind of kicking off this episode. So I guess...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that you did mention, Tim, was how Zuko... Because Zuko meets up with the pirates.
How calm he was.
How calm and, like, kind of, I guess...
Observant,
but yet manipulative he was when he was dealing with Katara.
Yeah, it was interesting. I just never took, at this point, if I'm just watching this for the first time as a child, observant wouldn't be an attribute I would give to Zuko. It would just be some random hothead who has an unfortunate haircut. But
super unfortunate.
Yeah. But it was cool. He was being clear of what he was after. He wasn't there to hurt Katara and Sokka specifically, but just wanted Aang, and just used what he had to try to leverage her to get what he wanted, which is manipulative, definitely.
Yeah, like he used her mother's necklace against her, which I feel like was a little bit slimy.
It was very slimy, yeah.
But it was like it was like using the appropriate amount of force and no more, almost. You know what I mean? It was
like he didn't use excessive force in this instance, which is like something that he does quite often, is use excessive force.
Yeah, it was like the progression of force, right? It was like he didn't just start off with like, do what I say, I have your mother's necklace. Like, he like elevated the force to appropriate levels, I guess.
And like what Tim said before, like he tried to connect with her, right? Like he brought his own humanity into it and was like, I need to restore my honor. How about I restore your necklace and you help me restore my honor?
Actually, something that I'm getting from this now that we talk about it again is maybe that Uncle Iroh energy is actually rubbing off on Zuko a little bit.
Yeah.
Talking about Uncle Iroh throwing shade.
Aang, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault.
No, it's not your fault.
Actually, it is a little bit your fault.
I think he was like, actually, it's totally your fault. Just throwing shade at Katara.
Yeah.
She's already tied up.
Yeah.
You're never too old to spit facts.
No, Uncle Iroh was a solid character in, as always,
Always.
accidental proverbs.
Yeah.
Like,
Something else we talked about with Iroh on the last recording was the fact that, like, it kind of seems almost like he set up the trip to shore because he found the lotus tile in his sleeve at the very end of the
but I guess we should say that, like, the whole reason that they went to shore in the first place is because Uncle Iroh, or Zuko and Iroh, Uncle Iroh lost his white lotus tile, so they went to the shore so that Iroh could buy another one, and then at the end of the episode, he conveniently finds that tile in his sleeve.
Yes.
With the biggest shit-eating grin on his face, he presents it to Zuko.
Yeah, so I feel like he kind of wanted to just go onto land for a little bit.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm done being sailing around.
He just wanted a shopping trip. Let's be real.
He's like, oh, the only thing better than finding what you didn't, or you wanted to find, is finding what you didn't need at a good price.
Oh man, I love the something you see throughout all the different parties. The Zuko's party, the gang, and the pirates is I feel like opportunism was definitely something each party utilized. It was the pirates. Oh yeah, Katara taking being opportunistic and stealing from thieves, stealing from the pirates. Zuko being opportunistic and leveraging the pirates, and also does everything. Katara's necklace, the scroll, threatening to burn the scroll to make the pirates comply, and also when the ships were stolen as well, the pirates are like, haha, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Let's steal the Fire Nation.
Yeah. Aang and gang steal the pirate ship, and then the pirates steal Zuko's ship. And then
So, like, what we talked about, like, when Aang and Katara steal the pirate ship, is it kind of brought that back full circle, right? Like, they work together to move the ship, and like, that is just, it embodies the water tribe, like that working together. Even the water tribe name, the tribe, right? It's like, it's very much working together, and that's not something we see in almost any other bending style, right? Like, we don't see...
You see it in earthbending.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, I guess, yeah. But, like, we see it most often in waterbending, where the benders combine their power to create bigger and, like, more drastic effects.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's because, like, the two elements that you're dealing with earth and water, is they're massive, right?
Yeah.
It's literally, earth is the thing we live on, and water is, like, the sea, right?
Yeah.
So they can be, like, almost endless, whereas, like, fire and air kind of like we said before, fire comes from within you and air is all around you, so you can almost summon them at will, whereas, like, earth and water, even though, again, earth, you're probably always going to have earth around, but water's a little bit more tricky in that way, right? It's like, it's not necessarily always going to be around.
Yeah, and something you mentioned earlier, too, is, like, it was very, like, this is kind of where Aang and Katara's journey start, where they learn waterbending together.
Yeah.
And, like, something I've noticed through the series is, like, Katara is a much better waterbender than Aang, but not in this moment.
Yeah.
At this point in time, Aang is way better than Katara is, and it's because of the bending that he's learned previously.
Yeah, and like it kicks off their journey together. There is no mentor-mentee in this relationship.
Yeah, they're just learning together.
They're learning together, and we all know that it's way better to learn things with your friends.
Oh
right?
yeah.
It like adds that element of play and funness to it, right? And then it's like, actually, something that came to my mind is it's this old proverb from like the Book of Five Rings, which is a samurai book, but it's like. When you know the way broadly, you see it in all things. And that basically just means is that once you have like mastered something in your own life, it's easier for you to take those skills that you learned or that you applied to mastering one thing and apply it to other things.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So that the process of learning speeds up because you realize that it's like, oh, this is just like this. I just have to work at
different.
it. Yeah, it's just like you apply it differently. And I feel like
That's
that
beautiful, yeah.
I feel like that is why Aang picks up waterbending so easily is because he is already a master of his element, right? He is already a master airbender, so he can see the way broadly and then apply those same techniques into waterbending.
Yeah, and that's something that we talked about before is like Aang was taught by a bunch of masters. He was taught that when you bend, you shift your weight. And so for him to go and learn waterbending, he was just immediately like, oh, I have to shift my weight in this way. And Katara's never been taught that.
Yeah.
Never has she been taught that she needs to do that.
It's really something when two people who are coming at two separate points in a journey come and intersect and just see what really becomes of that. Like, will they clash or will they move along together? And I think this very much did reveal a clash, and then the fact that they still chose to be like to live in that recontextualization of their relationship. Really, like Katara didn't need to be a mom or a master or really a sibling, but just someone who is serious and wants to get better at this art. And I think that's the root of all of her frustrations, if she's being honest with herself. It's not Aang's fault, or really it's not Aang's fault that he is at the stage that he is at. So it didn't warrant her snapping at him. But I really respect that she's letting herself be a learner in this journey. And I think she initially offered to teach Aang under the guise that, like, I'm going to be the one with all the answers, when in reality it's like learning together.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, their whole journey towards to the Northern Water Tribe is so that they can both learn, right?
Yeah.
And, like, I think this is the first time where Katara's like, oh, I'll teach you, right? So then she thrusts herself into that teacher role, and then, like, almost automatically, once her student, I guess, is better than her, it's like
5 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 5 minutes later, but she's probably like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a teacher, and then it's just like, oh, taught you everything I know already. Like, you know, that's
and, like,
probably a little crushing.
Like we talked about before, like, that's part of her identity.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of who she is. She's been the only water tribe bender, or the water bender in her tribe for as long as she can remember.
Yeah.
And so, like, for her to not be the only water bender, I think is a little bit jarring.
Yeah,
definitely.
And something, again, that we kind of mentioned before is it's interesting to see the progression of the characters, because, like, just we know where they end up.
Yep.
And we see them running from the pirates at first in this episode, where it's like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, you would never run from...
Mess them up!
Yeah, these guys aren't even benders. You'd never run from, like, a bunch of just normal dudes with swords. You would just, like, blow them away or whatever, like, use water and flood them. But no, they, like, run away. And something that you said that's cool, when they come to the cabbage cart and, like, they run by it, and, you know, they put the Katara knocks some cabbages down and he places them, and Sokka knocks some cabbages down and the guy replaces them, and then Aang comes through with
perfectly. Doesn't touch anything. And then as soon as he doesn't touch anything, he looks back and just blasts the fuck out of that cabbage cart. Just explodes it
into the pirates. Just
he
like
redirected those cabbages.
This is worse than in Omashu. Poor guy.
Yo.
Oh, just you wait, sir.
Just
you wait. You won't be safe anywhere you go.
But, like, the pirates are so cool. Like, just the general vibe of the pirates.
And all of their different weapons.
Yeah, and smoke bombs.
So cool.
Yeah.
I like the crossbow net thing.
Yes.
Yeah. But, like, even just the fact that, like, they are not afraid to just square up. Yeah.
Jump right into a battle with some
firebenders.
Like,
actually,
like,
all types of benders.
Like, but also, like, firebender soldiers. Like, this is who the rest of the world is scared of.
Yeah, word.
They're just like, we're gonna fuck you up.
But it's not even just firebenders, because they're fighting against Katara, who's a waterbender, and Aang, who's the Avatar.
Yeah, but they, like, Aang and Katara don't really fight them. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like,
well, they did. Oh no! Remember, she mastered that whip.
Yeah, she knocked one person off of a boat.
Yeah, but they do actually fight them, and Aang kind of, like, and Sokka comes in and fights them too, right?
Yeah,
like,
and, like, what you said earlier about, like, we really kind of see where Sokka's role is in this group, and that's being the super clever one.
Yeah.
With like his role of like, oh yeah, why you want a waterbending scroll? You could have the Avatar. And
Yeah.
Aang's like, shut up.
Yeah.
Sokka.
Yeah, we kind of see Sokka's role is when they do get captured, like, Sokka plays it up. He's like, "Oh, why would you want this waterbending scroll? You've captured the Avatar. Are you really gonna trade the Avatar for some stupid waterbending scroll? You could get way more money for the Avatar."
Yeah, it's bad business sense.
And it's actually kind of neat because it's completely juxtaposed by when they did get captured and they almost leave Sokka behind. He's like, "Hey, aren't you gonna capture me too?"
Am I not important enough?
But then it like almost instantly Sokka shows his value to the group. You know what I mean? Like
He is constantly hitting above his like weight class in terms of power level. So it's so like he's just the embodiment. If you can't out muscle them, out clever them,
Yeah.
so beautiful. It's great.
And actually, even going back to the beginning of the episode is when Katara and Aang go off to learn waterbending, and Sokka's like, "What am I gonna do?" And they're like, "I don't know, clean Appa's toes or something." It's like, okay, fine. And then he's like, he's like, "Hey, aren't I important enough to?" And then you see Sokka's role in the group, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat, like the way that they did that too. Is like Sokka kind of comes in and saves the day after kind of being almost dismissed a little bit throughout the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
But you're still valuable even if you don't have bending. And I think even the pirates like embody that really too.
Yeah,
Oh
the
my
pirates,
goodness.
like, none of them had bending.
No.
Not a single one, but they, like,
Zero hesitation.
yeah,
Like,
they just ran right into
you
that.
throw fire at me, and then the green guy was like, when he jumped into the cloud of smoke, it's like, yeah, I was like, yeah.
Classic like karate sound effect.
Yeah. To be fair, the sound effects in this episode were on point.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, like the thwacks and
The
stuff
thwack.
like that.
When Sokka gets hit, it's just like the writer, the sound effect people just do like, yeah, let's make him a goof. Sokka's getting hurt. Oh, use the funny noises.
It's fine if he gets hurt. It's funny.
Something that this. Oh, go ahead. I think you had an idea. You go
No,
first.
I was just gonna say, kind of the way that we see Sokka being dismissed in this episode, and then him saving the day. We actually see the same thing with Aang when he buys the bison whistle. They're like, he tries to use it, and it like doesn't really work. And they're like, maybe we should hold the money, Aang. And then at the end of the day, when they're going over the waterfall, fucking the bison whistle saves the day.
It's true. It's like an episode of being undervalued, but
Yeah.
actually not.
Yeah, true.
That's amazing. That's a great way to put it. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Or like, I guess maybe being brought, because Katara gets brought down a peg and everybody else gets brought up one. So I feel like now they're on the same level.
I think it's more so about recognizing your own worth and acting from that rather
Yeah.
than when you're insecure and you're more concerned about being more or comparing yourself or being more powerful than something else. You do dumb shit like steal from pirates, try to capture the Avatar to restore your honor. Yeah.
I think that this episode actually really shows us that we all, like, when you compare yourselves to others, you fail, or you're always going to come up short. But when you just use your skill set and like focus on what you're good at and what you bring to the group, that is when
Kinda
you're
shine.
going, that's how you shine, right? It's not in comparing yourself to others. It's about focusing on what you do good and like excelling at that, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
And moving from like who you truly are kind of thing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
An interesting two things. Aang, I didn't realize this whole time that Aang actually had to buy the bison whistle, and that was like when that clicked, it was like, oh my goodness, this is the first time I'm ever seeing what this item is. It would very much clicked. It's like in the D&D, it's like when they're first getting their magical items, kind of. Like, oh wow, this is like this early. This is a throwback, and so that was fun. And then secondly, I wanted to explore the idea of, I guess, having flawed teachers. And how humanizing that is, seeing it throughout the entire series. I'm trying to think of one. Oh no, there's Iroh, but okay. Anyways, well, no, he's still flawed in a way. He was a man with a lot of guilt and blood on his hands.
Yeah.
But I was just imagining all of Aang's teachers in particular. we get to see them. We don't get to see them as completely idealized versions to look up to and aspire to. And I actually love that so much. I love that we get to see the flaws and get to learn from flawed people.
I think that this series
And still have a positive impact.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think this series does a really good job of that. Like, what we were talking about is like how this is another big fight between Katara and Aang, and last time they fought was the Kyoshi warriors, and obviously Aang was very much in the wrong there, and this time Katara's in the wrong. So you kind of get to see it go back and forth, where it's not like this character is perfect, this character doesn't make mistakes. It's like, no, these characters are flawed and they do dumb shit, and they have to deal with the fallout.
And I mean, the one thing that this series does really well is that all the characters are like humans, you know what I mean? They're all just people, like, and they have moments where they do good and they have moments where they do bad or whatever, but the thing that they all have in common is that they all think that they are the ones who are in the right. And like, I think that that's what really kind of makes a good dynamic between kind of like Aang and Zuko, right? Is they both think that they're doing the right thing, and that's what makes and like, obviously Aang is doing the right thing. He's trying to save the world, but like, but it's like Zuko thinks he's doing the right thing in capturing the Avatar and bringing honor to the Fire Nation, because again, in later episodes, we're going to see that like the life of a Fire Nation child is very indoctrinated with like with the importance of the Fire Nation, right? So it's like, I'm sure he believes that he is in the right. He doesn't see himself as the bad guy. Like,
no. And like, that's a very human trait. You never see yourself as the bad guy until later, and then you look back at your actions and you're like, shit.
Yeah. And like that's why, like, I think that this series kind of like really resonates with so many different people on so many different levels at so many different age groups, is because like they're all humans. Like, no matter what character it is, they're all humans. And I just want to touch on something, because you did say about the kind of flawedness of teachers and all of Aang's teachers. Well, we were talking about it right before we noticed that we weren't recording, but I forget his name, but Aang's first firebender. Zhang. Yeah. Just how Aang comes to that, and when he is doing the firebending for the first time, Zhang has such like a negative opinion of firebending. He sees it as destructive and like dangerous,
harmful,
and he resents it.
He resents
it himself too.
Yeah, and that kind of feel rubs off onto Aang, and that's why he
has like that mental block when it comes to learning firebending.
Yeah, it's like the negativity of the teacher. You can't teach if you don't. Like, obviously, that's gonna rub off on Aang, right? And it's gonna cause him
prejudices
some
and the way that you view subjects is obviously gonna rub off on like your biases. Are like, you can't be unbiased. If you hate something and you're trying to teach it, you're never gonna come off as unbiased.
It's not just a series of moves that you program into another person. It's martial arts includes a world view, and I think we definitely see it. I'm getting shivers just thinking about that, but I think, what Aang has learned from learning these different bending styles is also influenced by the worldviews of his teacher, and that brings in the whole function of the Avatar to not only bring balance to all four nations, but you can only really bring balance to a system that you truly understand.
And that you also believe in, right?
Yeah.
And like, we do see that, all of Aang's teachers, like, I'm talking mostly about Katara, Toph, Zuko. They love the elements that they bend, right? Like, they like all of
that's
them.
That's their
like,
life.
That is their life. Like I'm especially thinking of Toph here.
Literally her life.
But like, they respect the elements that they bend. They love the elements
and
that
they have
bend,
fun with it.
And they have fun with it. True.
That's like another big thing, is like when you're learning something, like, yes, it takes discipline and work and everything else, but to really learn something, you need to have a little bit of fun with it, because otherwise your brain is like, why am I even doing this?
So I think like learning fire from Zhang Zhang first is like kind of what gives Aang that negative stigma and makes it so he is unable to really like kind of control it properly at first too, is because he was taught badly.
Yeah, he was taught by somebody who had such a negative view of it, he didn't even want to teach Aang how to use fire. So Aang kind of took it into his own hands.
Yeah.
And then that's what kind of caused the destruction in that episode for sure.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that each of his teachers did have flaws and very humanizing flaws. I also want to acknowledge that what made them good teachers at the end is that I guess they were constantly on a path of learning as well. It's where am I going with this? Like for Zuko's arc in particular, he had a complete overall from the source of his bending in book 3. His main motivation for firebending was his hatred and I guess also his shame of having to be powerful in order
anger.
and his anger, and having to have that revamped to realize that like the heart of my firebending should be life. And being able to tap into the honor that was already there. So he was only able to come to terms with that from the constant, I guess, personal reflection and growth and learning that he did throughout the whole series.
I think honestly that's what makes a good teacher in
Yeah.
general, is like, how are you supposed to teach a subject if you're not learning also, right? Like, you might be a master of the subject. I'm thinking about university here, but like, you
let it
could
out.
be like the master of your subject, but even my university professors are like, let us know if we said something that doesn't seem right, because sometimes we say things or like on tests, sometimes we'll write out a question and we think this is the answer, but the way that you guys think about it might be different. So please let us know so that we can like talk about it, and maybe the answer to this question needs to change. And so like I appreciate that my teachers are also on a path of learning.
I love the inherent humility in that as well. It's beautiful. You wanted to say something, Cody?
It's just interesting about what you said about Zuko and, you know, how he kind of rethought firebending, and like really he wasn't able to, I don't think he became a true master of the element, and he definitely wasn't able to teach it until he did have that realization and that like oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just having like epiphanies about the show here.
The show's so good, guys.
So do we have last thoughts about this episode? Do we have any last thoughts about the episode we just watched?
I just wanted to mention,
What episode are we watching? No, I'm joking.
I think it's like 24. I don't know. No, just kidding. Just one thing I do want to mention, because I don't know if we mentioned it on this recording, is that I think the reason that Aang is so able to pick up waterbending in the way that he is because the movements of airbending and waterbending are very similar. You know, they're very
overlap.
They overlap.
Yeah.
They're very flowy and stuff like that. Whereas, like, where you go from airbending to earthbending, like earthbending moves are very rigid and solid, and we said the same thing about the firebending moves, is they're very like direct and like you're directing force outwards, where airbending and waterbending,
They're kind of like redirecting.
you're like you're redirecting, and you're like kind of going with the flow and like redirecting the element to your use, whereas like with earth and fire it's very like
the
direct.
force of your will
Yeah,
is like
Force
at
of
the
your
very
will.
center of it.
Yeah.
Whereas like there's a certain like pull and release in water and also in air.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why Aang is so inherently talented or easy, able to pick up waterbending as easy as he does. And like you said, he never fully masters it to the level that Katara does, but he is still competent enough to use it in extreme ways.
Well, like what I was saying was like, and you see him at this level and he's like really good, and like he learns, but like we see Katara go from like barely being able to do anything to like one of the best waterbenders the world has seen. So like her journey is so much bigger, where Aang's like, he starts out very competent and he doesn't grow much past that.
Yeah. We do see Katara progress way beyond Aang in waterbending. For sure. Okay, sorry. Any final thoughts about this episode?
That was my final thoughts. Yeah.
Just like, dear listener, I just want you to be as happy as Appa is just playing in that river.
For real. And Momo was the true victim.
Momo, justice for Momo, dude.
Actually, one thing I do want to mention is Momo saved the fucking day. He grabbed that
Yeah.
waterbending scroll.
True. That was
Yeah,
came
no,
in
but
the
then
clutch.
he dropped it, and Sokka ended up with it.
Yeah, but he's the one who stole it from the pirates.
That's
that was
true.
clutch.
Yeah, he did.
And he had to fight off that lizard bird.
True.
Which he did very cleverly.
Super clever. Super clever. Yeah.
He's like, oh, you're copying my movements? Sweet. I'm just going to wrap you up in this flag real quick.
Yeah. Please be nice to your flying bison and your flying lemurs, and
Stay hot, hot people.
stay hot people. Yep.
Yeah. Also, thank you everybody for listening. The response we've gotten so far has been really like humbling in a way.
Yeah.
my
Like,
Oh,
yes.
sorry. I do have one more thing. Thank you, Jacob, for the beautiful woodworked
Oh my
coasters
gosh,
that you
yes.
gifted to us. It was really awesome to receive that gift, and like very humbling also. Like it was just an awesome surprise.
I was shook.
Yeah, for real. Shook. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
yeah, it's been awesome to interact with you guys and hear from people who say like, I'm gonna rewatch the series now and I'm gonna follow along with you guys and stuff like that. It's really cool to see that you guys are also enjoying it, because like I said many times already, like this is so much fun.
It's a lot of fun.
The last thing, I'm sorry if this episode is a little disjointed, just because we did lose the recording a little bit, but I think
Because we were attacked.
because
Yeah,
we're
we
attacked.
were attacked. Viciously.
Viciously.
Viciously
Yeah.
attacked.
Hey, can I have some more healing over
Yeah,
here?
yeah, I got
Tierra?
you, I
Thank
got you.
Oh, thanks.
That's what water sounds like.
Okay, that's good. I'm Cody Smith,
I'm Tierra Penner.
I'm Timothy Ocampo.
and thank you very much for listening to this episode of the podcast.
If you liked this episode of the podcast, why not leave a review? Whether you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcast, whatever podcatcher you may be listening on, ratings and reviews are huge. They help us to break through those evil algorithms, and it will help us to reach the most amount of glorious Avatar fans that we can possibly reach. If you would like up-to-date information regarding this podcast, follow us on Instagram. You can find us at the.last.podbender on Instagram. If you would like more information about all of the shows that Froggy Style Productions produces, including this one, follow them on social media, and you can find them at Froggy Style Productions on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For more ways in which you can support the show, visit fsproductions.ca.